Welcome back to V-Rule. We are going crazy climbing up this ladder to that 2,500 subscriber mark where you have a chance to win this Galarian Articuno tin from Crown Zenith. Also, I'm giving away 2 3-pack boosters from Stellar Crown and a Pokemon Mystery Prize for lucky winners going out to 4 amazing people, supporters of the channel. All you got to do is like, comment, and subscribe. Take it one step further, though. Hit that bell. I post 7 days a week, and these aren't just posts. These are long-form videos, hopefully informative for you, talking about the market up and down, talking about artwork, talking about vintage sets, and all sorts of things in between. I try to give you valuable content in the Pokemon hobby, from the TCG to collecting and investing. I do a few openings here and there, but really, I want to just immerse you into the Pokeverse here on YouTube. Just a nice place to go, relax, and have a little break from reality, just to enjoy this hobby we're all a part of. So now that I'm ranting on that, go over to the video linked in the description. That's the specific one where I need an additional comment, and if you already commented there before, you don't have to do it again. One will do it, but an additional comment for your chance to win. These prizes are going out to 4 lucky winners, but that's where I need to pull those comments from, so they're all housed in one specific location. Today is Wednesday, which means our Artwork Wednesday review. And the way I do it here, let's hop over here. The way I do it, I like to look at Pokelector, go through all of the different sets, and we've been making our way week after week going through these different sets. There's a few things we skipped, the little things, trick or trade, all that stuff, no big deal. But once a new set releases in full, and this one just came out this past Friday, Stellar Crown, we're going to work our way back and do that. Then we'll continue on the path working modern back to vintage, specifically to look at artwork. So let's just take a quick glance at Stellar Crown. 142 cards, 33 secret. That's 175 cards. Very, very light numbers considered in this era here. I think Twilight Masquerade was approaching 300, so we have a lot of different things to consider in this. There's rainbow border on some of these EX, really cool. I don't want to dive too deep into it though. With a smaller set, it gives us an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into specific artworks where we don't have a huge swath of artworks to choose from. I'm not going to look at full arts, although these rainbow full arts are interesting. I don't think they warrant an entire discussion. And the full art trainers, things like that, just don't need to have that additional conversation. But let's take a look at our ranking system here. We do true artwork, still art, neutral, not going to last, and then not considered. This is the not considered pool that I already described earlier, so it really narrows it down to just some things like ACE SPEC cards. I love that magenta, the cyan border, and those hollow patterns on the ACE SPEC cards look really cool, so they always kind of scream out to me as being worth the review if it warrants the discussion, and I think in Stellar Crown it does. Illustration rares, of course, they are illustrations to begin with, and we're talking artworks, that makes sense. Special illustration rares, obvious that we would go into that, and our hyper rares, those gold cards. I think gold cards are quickly overlooked unless they're playable, but it's interesting to kind of bring them up, and I like to do that in almost reverse order here, kind of the lower tier working our way up to the higher tier as far as price might expect. So in looking at those ACE SPEC cards, the obvious thing is the card overall, no matter the ACE SPEC card, the colors pop. All right, so that draws your eye in. You have this great contrast. It's really easy to want these, and inexpensively, it's a kind of a fun little subset to grab and get a hold of. Trainers, you know, can do well, some don't, but as far as a trainer subset, these ACE SPEC, it's an interesting one to go for, and really these are not going to be something that I think is going to be a long-term or an amazing artwork. I'm somewhat neutral on them, but it's really just the possibility of doing it as a subset there. I especially love when there's a little bit more engaging imagery inside, so we can quickly go into those and say that they put it into the neutral just because of its position as a card in the TCG, being an ACE SPEC. That's where it lands for me. Now we can move down into the gold cards. Again, I think these are almost always overlooked unless it's a popular character or something, or it's going to be a playable card. It doesn't really seem to have a whole lot of value beyond that, even though hyper rare does qualify it as being one of the more rarer cards to pull within a set if you're going to go that route and be pulling cards rather than buying secondary and single cards. So an individual item here, okay, that's fine. The little swirl gives it a little action, but it's just your basic gold layout here. I really do like when the gold interlaces with the image and you have these outlines. It'd be like a cartoon style heavy black border, but we do it with the gold to kind of make it pop more. And since this is really filling that frame, there's not a whole lot of gold to go around, so this helps a lot. And here we have the Terapagos, I don't know how you say it. I keep butchering it, I'm sure. And it's an interesting Pokemon, but we've seen other artworks already out of this that we know are coming, so I don't know if it really elevates it too much higher. I think one thing that does do well on this is we have that rainbow sparkle flying through the air above with those little starbursts. They're diamonds, really, but showing through in the gold in that really crinkled, it looks like a crinkled gold aluminum foil texture. So there's a little bit more depth in this one. So I'm actually going to pop that one up a little higher, but for the most part, unless you like the golds, I think they kind of fall into the not going to last category. I may be wrong. I've said it in the past, and I do believe it, that gold will someday have its day, but I don't know how long it's going to get there. So neutral on this one. It's fine, but I just don't think it's going to go beyond that too much there, and these two are going to fit into that not going to last. And this is being really critical. I mean, these are all sub not going to last, or they fit in that category that they're so much easier to obtain, so less expensive, that it's really going to be that not going to last on that's character specific or playability that would do it. So not going to last doesn't mean this is garbage and you should avoid it. If you want a master set, go ahead. Obviously, you got to get all of your card. If you like the gold cards and that's where you're collecting, there's nothing wrong with that. From a perspective of artwork, my own subjective opinion, again, that's all it is, that's where I'm landing on some of these. So we got to keep that in mind, that this is not looking at the value of the card. This is not looking at the TCG playability. This is really the art for art's sake and how I can review it there. My least viewed video of the week is my Wednesday artwork stuff, but my background as a photographer, as a photography professor, as a multiple degrees in art and studio art and design, it's an interesting field for me to look at it in this way, and that perspective I hope rings through. I get pretty passionate about this stuff. This is actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Kind of sad to say, actually. It's easier to kind of go from the top down, and it may be fan favorites. It may be the fact that they tie together. You add in that Charmander, but Squirtle and Bulbasaur are just an obvious given true artwork. There's so much storytelling here. These Pidgey cards are just taking it to another level, and I think that's something that's been circulating out there, that everybody noticed that these are more Pidgey cards than they are. There are 3 starters there, because they're kind of taking over the scene in each one, including the Charmander promo from Obsidian Flames. But these are true artworks, and I don't think we need to beat around the bush to get there. I really love the Squirtle. I think most people do. As far as an artwork, I think the Bulbasaur is actually stronger. It has a lot better layering, where you can go through each level of this, and obviously all the greenery repeating, these patterns, these textures similarly repeat, and you have that steady flow, where the Squirtle is a little bit more chaotic. It's just him playing a pool, squirting it out. You get this little bit more dimension here because it's coming over that railing there, splashing out on there, a little bit more depth into this one. So I mean, there's things to consider, but to be honest, as far as artwork goes, I think Bulbasaur is a stronger artwork, where Squirtle is a more popular Pokemon. And this definitely puts these two in a higher tier of just how good they are, because they're going to be focused in that way. And we saw these as promos from Stellar Miracle, I think, in that time or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's a good comment down below if you want, of when we saw those introduced in Japanese. They weren't in Stellar Miracle per se. I think they were in promos prior to that. So I'm not certain. I can't remember how that works. I can't keep track of every market. There's so many cards out there. So let's get that Squirtle, let's get that Bulbasaur, and let's toss them right where they belong in that true artwork, because they are. They just are true artworks there. Makes it a little bit easier to kind of narrow things down here. There's a few that stand out to me as being not exciting. The Gulpin is kind of a not going to last, in my opinion. It's very simple in its design, and that's great and all, but that's it. It's very simple, and it kind of falls apart for me there. I don't know if it's because of the popularity or lack thereof popularity. Turtonator, see, I don't know these names. I don't know a lot of these later generations, and it just doesn't help or bode well. There's a lot of good detail in here, interesting textures and stuff, and even the light coming down, but it looks a little bit too simplistic, cartoony, to trying to make it more than it is, which puts it in a not going to last for me. And I'm just trying to be a little bit more harsh and critical, because I think we need to spread these out a little bit as far as artworks and where they could land on this scale here. Lileep is nice there. There's a lot happening. It's chaotic. There's mirroring happening between the Pokemon and some of the decor in the space here. You have this really surreal landscape outside. You have the figure of the person here. She's looking out there, just looking up from reading her book, kind of immersed in a story, but then awakened to another type of story in her own reality, which is far outside of reality for us. It gives it a lot more depth and everything. I'm really tempted to put this into a true artwork, because it is interesting for such a lackluster Pokemon. However, the palette feels a little flat. I feel like there could have been a little bit more done to kind of isolate the colors of the Lileep. You could mirror it here, you could sprinkle that pattern throughout, but just having this wash magenta pink over the top kind of pulls it back a little bit for me into the still artwork category. Metatite, we have a similar feel in the outcome here, but I love the expression. This Metatite seems to be doing a meditation, all right, hanging up above the vines there, just sitting there meditating. And you have this little peek out the one eye, and I feel like that's the level of focus I ever get out of myself trying to do any sort of meditation. So it's difficult. It's difficult to put yourself in that place and actually commit to it, and I think I have a lot more to relate to there. Love the high up in the canopy here, looking over the tops of these trees, the Chatot flying by, and that waterfall coming down. There's just a lot of different little, they're not Easter eggs per se, but they mirror something that I've seen before. Yosemite has a famous image, only a certain time of year, only a certain time of day, there's a fire falls, there's a nice waterfall coming down, and the light hits it. It looks like fire falling down. And this long stream here just giving me that firefall feel for some reason. It could be the height and the fact that it's not a very wide waterfall. Whatever it is, it's kind of bringing me into that place there. And I think we get these in still artwork, not quite the true artwork, or true work of art rather, but we do get to get those elevated a little bit there. I think we kind of have some similarities between quite a few of these, not so much in their art style. As you can see, these one to the next, they are not a cohesive body. They don't go well together as individual pieces. They do their own thing, but together they are not mirroring anything. They don't feel like they could be a part of the same set. You have bright, colorful, not a lot of crazy shading here. You have this hazy glow over the top of it. Everything is just about this little tiny pattern texture, little splashes of color, this light pouring in from behind, and then you have this murky fog in the Crobonomol, in the snow here. So they're just very different, and they kind of compete with one another in that way. So even looking at them separately, trying to look at the storytelling of this bridge while you're rolling down the street, whatever it is, I don't know if it's a skyscraper, bridge, whatever, it's just not taking it to another level. Again, the Pokemon is influencing my decision there as well. Milcery, kind of cool, but not really being elevated to a higher development of an artwork. And same thing here, we have this interesting scenery, but it's all blocked out by the weather of that scene, right? It's really foggy and blowing that blizzard through, and the snow coming in, and it's just washing it out white, very hard to see. They all kind of fit into a more neutral zone for me when it comes down to their artworks. And we are starting to thin this pile out a little bit. Maybe we can go a little bit quicker here. What do we have here? We've got 4 more on the illustration rares. I can tell you that 2 of them are hitting in the still artwork for me pretty easily, and 2 are going to be going into that neutral zone. I think the Ledian is an obvious one for the neutral zone out of the 4. If you're going to take that out of the 4, this one hits in the neutral zone pretty obviously, and maybe not obviously. Maybe you're looking at the Joltik and thinking that. But it starts to become apparent why those 2 lean that way, right? Maybe you're thinking Ledian, maybe you're thinking the Joltik, but didn't it become apparent that those 2 are the ones in that more neutral zone, rather than the still artwork zone of Zorora or Reboot? And maybe we got to dive in a little bit deeper on that. The Reboot has a little bit more storytelling. See, this snowy atmosphere here just takes it to another level by opening up a little bit, giving it some foreground, some blurred out foreground details, blurred in the background details. We call this bokeh, where the depth of field is a little bit more shallow there on the Pokemon and kicking up this snowball. So the Reboot has a little bit more storytelling ability, getting that still art there. The Joltik, I love the textures and the patterns and the fact that this bolt is coming out, but it's a little almost too chaotic and kind of confusing. Getting a sense of the depth of the scene, where we're at, what's going on. I don't know what these things are. Is it some sort of pattern, or these big shards of ice? I don't know what's going on here. So it's a little bit more difficult to read on the Joltik. And I think we did just have a Joltik not too long ago having an artwork on it that I think was doing better. Let's get a couple of these here into their proper home. Still artwork there. The Zorora, what did we say here? We were saying that might be a still artwork, but I really love this crazy color washing through these harsh lines, creating a lot of motion. There's not a whole lot happening here. There's a lot of motion, a lot of energy, no pun intended with this electric here, but there is a lot of energy in there. Then we have these nice swirly lines here showing and leading our eye into the scene here, into that face of Zorora. So a lot of things are just kind of turning us in, bringing our attention inward to that center, and everything's just really drawing and pulling you in. It's a small frame. You got to think about how difficult it is to capture that much detail and manipulate your view of it. We're going to put that into the... if I'm hesitant and there's so few of them, I think I got to go with true artwork on that. It's quite beautiful. The colors on it alone help it in that direction, really popping. I think we got through all the illustration rares. Let's go through the special illustration rares, which now, to be honest, some of them seem a little bit falling short of others in the illustration category. And that's not the point. The artwork is not... Sorry, the class of card is not dictating the artwork's outcome. The artwork is supplementary to that class of card. The class of card refers to its rarity overall. All right, illustration rares, 3 in a booster box maybe. Special illustration rares, 1 every 2 booster boxes, 2.5 booster boxes, something like that. So the rarity of the pull is what is dictating that classification of special illustration rare over illustration rare. They are about the artwork when you get into this category regardless. So that's why we see things like the Magikarp, out of Paldea Evolve, beating everything else in that entire set, because the artwork stands for itself. Even though it's not an SIR, it's an IR. I digress. Let's get into this here. Something about a Pokemon that's really a pastry, or a pastry that's a Pokemon, I'm uneasy about it. It's an okay artwork, it's fine, but the fact that this Pokemon is so weird to me, I can't get over it, and I'm trying to, but that is part of the content of the imagery, and it makes it difficult for me to appreciate it as much. I don't think this meets the standard of a true artwork. Blair has a lot going on here for the card. We have this sparkly, shiny, diamond-esque looking here. Same thing with the gem, with those sparkly shoots, lights coming out there. I was looking for one more, and just out of the fact of highlights standing out more and looking for the spike look. I don't know what's on the shelf back here, but that's doing it for me. And now we have this really, really big triangle happening here right across the eye. All right, so now we're really brought in just with these 3 highlights, isolating it. We got the highlight right on the face here, the light pouring in, of course, and then it's starting to scatter in all directions. So it's really holding your attention here. Is it enough? Is this holding my attention so much that's competing with everything else that there's really not much more to the story? And I think that is the case, which is why this one's going to hit in the still artwork, but not the true artwork for me. Gravantula, this mirroring effect is nice. I don't know if we have a plane, a surface here, water, or a mirror itself that's giving this mirroring effect of this reflective look, but it kind of lives and dies by the Pokemon itself. The rest is just color, texture, and not a whole lot of scenery. Again, putting us in that still artwork, but not quite the true artwork. Interestingly enough, these are the 3 bottom prices versus the 3 top prices of the special illustration rares, and let's just move those out into their final destination here, and then we can get into these last 3 cards, hopefully quickly, because I feel like I'm taking a long time on this. The Terapagos. I think there's a lot going on. I would really, really like to see this thing in person, to inspect it further, to have a better view of the card. The texture, the mosaic patterns back here, the gems, this idea of like the world that it's overseeing entirely, the cosmos, everything's coming together here. We have the rainbow, all that. Man, it's chaotic. Is it Giratina Lost Origin chaotic? Not quite, but there's enough happening here that it gets pretty wild, pretty crazy. I think a lot of people agree that the rainbow rares of Sword and Shield didn't get the kind of love they probably could, and maybe will still get over time. But I will say that bringing back that rainbow in the form of the border has been pretty well received from what I can tell. I don't think anybody's seen that and gone, that's not really working for them. For all of that, and probably a few other things, being the top pull of the set, being the biggest price and all that, obviously this one lands in that true artwork, in my opinion. I actually thought the Hydrapple would get in that true artwork. I really like the texture pattern back here. It's kind of scrubbed out, kind of giving this ancient Mew vibe as far as quality. But after I tried to talk myself into it and pushing that, I think I talked myself out of it in my analysis and seeing that it's still an artwork, but I don't think it meets the standard of true artwork. Last but not least, I think Lacey hits it easily. I really like the storytelling here, the multiple characters, the light coming from behind. We have a lot of chaos happening here in this real world scene, just being a little bit messy. Everybody's been there. And for Stellar Crown, I think this one still makes the cut into that true artwork, being our last and final card to analyze, putting Lacey up there, putting the top 2 pulls price-wise up there, and then the top 2, it might be the top 3, yeah, top 3, I think, I don't remember, I gotta look, top 3 illustration rare pulls, wow, $7. Anyways, putting those up into that true artwork. But this is my list, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Like I always do at the end of this list, I like to kind of take a step back and see it as a list here. I'd like to just omit this from my view right now, but looking at these, just as the thumbnail size that they are, they start to fit together in those categories, and I don't think anything's competing up or down. So across the way, they kind of compete with one another and fitting in that category, but I don't think anything here is begging to join the still art, or the still art is begging to join the true work of art section. Same thing in the neutral zone, and then not going to last. This is really, I feel like it's almost too harsh with this category, because I'd like to put something there to be realistic, that not everything hits home or hits an indifference, that you got to be able to pull it back and say that things aren't going to last, and that's okay. But I think everything landed where it should, and it makes sense to me. Maybe it does to you. I don't know. If it makes sense to you, that's great. Leave me a comment, and while you're making a comment, leave an additional comment. I thought I got another video down there in the description for you to take a look at. And what does that mean? It means you're entered to win the Galarian Articuno tin from Crown Zenith. 2 3-pack blisters from Stellar Crown. We were just looking at it. So get your chance at getting packs that you can actually pull one of these cards. And a Pokemon Mystery Prize going out to 4 lucky winners. So I want to give you the opportunity. We are on our way. 2,500 subscribers. I think we only got like 400 to go. It's pretty close. And it's moving pretty quick. So doing well. Very exciting times. And I post 7 days a week. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for that 7-day-a-week post reminder. And with that, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.